All right, guys, welcome back to the Buck Fever podcast. We've got a good one for you today. Jake and I have the pleasure of speaking with the director of the Mercury National Walleye Weekend Tournament, Ken Krueger. So, Ken, how are you doing this evening?
Pretty good, guys. Nice to talk to you.
Yeah, it's great to have you on here. So, um, I guess first of all, how about we just kind of, if you can give us a brief little overview about the event?
Oh, this is our 45th year of the Mercury National Walleye Tournament. It's been held in Fond du Lac for 45 years. And this year we've got 287 teams signed up, and the field is locked, and we're ready to go.
Holy cow, you said 217?
287.
287. Wow, so is that
Yep.
287 boats or people?
Boats, that's teams. Teams of two, 287 boats.
Holy cow, that's a whole lot of people that are going to be fishing, but it's a plenty big enough lake, so I don't think they're going to have too much trouble finding open water, but is that like a typical number, would you say, or is that higher end?
Since COVID, we've been building back up a little bit. We dropped down to something in the low 270s during 2020. And back in the day, say 15 years ago, we always maxed out around 300 teams. So we're starting to build back up towards that 300 count now.
Yeah, that's good to hear. It sounds like it's kind of getting back up there a little bit. What are some of the prizes of this event?
Well, first place is a boat motor and trailer. It's a Lund with two Mercuries on it and a trailer. And we also throw $4,000 in cash to pay for the taxes on that boat motor and trailer.
Wow,
And
Jake.
then second place is $10,000, and we pay all the way down to 80th place.
Jake, why aren't we in this thing, buddy?
Well, I don't know how to really catch fish, so
Well, you can learn.
right. I think we should start learning.
I agree. No, that's awesome though. That's so in comparison to other tournaments that are in the state, is this like the biggest or one of the biggest?
Well, define biggest, I guess we don't pay out as much as what they do in Oshkosh at the Battle on Bago. But this is a single corporation, being Mercury, that funds this tournament, and it's their way of saying thank you to the community of Fond du Lac, and the fishermen, are all 95% local. So it's just their way of helping out the community and saying thank you to their workers that fish it, and all the local sportsmen that, are part of it.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. So, as far as eligibility goes, is it like anybody can sign up?
Yes, the only requirements we have is that both motors that are on the back of your boat are Mercury's.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's pretty cool.
Yep. They, Back in the 90s, they changed the rule. They used to let, Johnsons and Evinrudes and everybody else in it, and then somebody kind of brought up the notion that, this is the Mercury Marine National Walleye Tournament, and you've got other boat manufacturer or motor manufacturers in it. So then they changed the rules, and then it has to be all Mercury powered boats now.
I like that. Is there any other tournaments that do a similar thing that you know of?
No, Battle on Bago and Oshkosh, they allow all motor manufacturers in their tournament because they're not necessarily sponsored by just one company like we are. They have a lot of sponsors, and I don't know if they have, had Evinrude when they were around, or Yamaha or Honda. I don't know if they're sponsoring them or not, but they allow all those motor manufacturers into the tournament.
Gotcha. Oh, that's a pretty cool little detail.
So you have upwards of 300 boats. How do you guys get everybody out there in the mornings, and where do you put everybody? I mean, do you all launch from the same launch, or is there multiple different launch points? Because I know you all weigh in at the same spot.
Well, fishermen can launch anywhere they want. We suggest that they either launch at the big hole by the lighthouse, or in the park at the train boat launch, or at Supley's Marsh. and they have to have their boats inspected each morning, and they get a paint stick that we paint different colors every year that they have to show a check-in boat, I should say a check-out boat in the morning when they go out. They have to show the paint stick that they were inspected, the live wells were checked, they checked for life jackets and kill switches on the big motor. And they start leaving at 6:30 in the morning. There's 2 lines out in the lake, and we check each boat out in numerical order through those 2 lines. One line will have boats 1 through 150. The other line has boats 151 through, this year it'll be 287. And they all just start going out about every 5 to 10 seconds, and we check them for that paint stick, check off their boat numbers so that we know that they went out and they can go out fishing.
Sounds like a pretty good system.
Well, it's been 45 years in the making, so there's been a lot of tweaks throughout the years and improvements.
Right. So does the boat just get assigned a number, or is your number assigned sign up? Is that how it goes, or you randomly just assign 1 through 287?
Good question, because I get a lot of phone calls on this one. When guys sign up, they expect to be getting a number right away, and it doesn't work that way. Because of the way that we go out and we come back in 4 different flights. The flights are 2, 2:30, 3, and 3:30 for coming back. So what we do is on Sunday, we flip the field. The high number boats go out first, and the low number boats end up going out last. And what this does is it splits up the times that they come back on each day, so everybody gets the same amount of time on the water.
Right. That's kind of what I was thinking. But yeah. I didn't know how they ditched all those numbers, or if you were signed up right away. Once we either hit 300 boats, or if we get to the end of our registration, which this year was Saturday night at midnight. When we get to the end of that registration time, then we put everybody's name into the computer system that scrambles them, and the boat numbers are given out randomly. Okay.
So it doesn't matter when you register, if it's in March when we first open it up, or if it's in the end of April or May. You're all thrown into the same computer system, and the numbers are scrambled, and then you're just assigned randomly what your number is.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it sounds like that's a good way to do it and keep everything fair. So you mentioned that you've been going for 45 years now. So obviously the tournament started 45 years ago. Do you know how that all came to be?
Yep. My understanding is that 2 guys sitting at Mercury one day at lunch in the lunchroom said, we should have a fishing tournament. And they went to somebody in the marketing department, and they agreed, and they started putting together some of the rules and ideas for how to do it. And then it's 1978 is when the tournament started.
And now here we are. That's about how we started doing all this. We kind of were like, hey, we should maybe start a YouTube channel and start doing some of this stuff. And then, like you said, it just kind of went from there. And no, that's cool. I didn't know if it was more of like maybe times were tough and they were looking for a new way to sponsor Mercury or something like that. But just a couple of guys over lunch chatting and coming up with ideas. I like that. How did it, at the start then, numbers-wise, how has it grown over the years?
I'm not sure, because I was pretty young back in the 70s. I was fishing the kids tournament on Oven Island at that time. I don't think they had more than like 100 boats the first few years, but I don't know that for sure. It's just kind of from some of the stories I've heard about how they did it. And back in those days, if you had a 60 horse on a 16-foot boat, you were a top dog at that time. A lot of guys had 12 and 14 footers, and I've seen pictures of some of the first Merc National tournaments. There was even canoes in it. There's people paddling out of the channels in the park on a canoe to go out fishing.
Huh. Yeah, that must have been something. I kind of wish that I could have seen that in some ways. But so how did you end up becoming the tournament director?
Wrong place at the right time, something like that. I used I used to fish the tournament for all of the 90s, and my partner and I actually did quite well. And he moved away to Watoma. Steve Sturgill is his name. He's still around Fond du Lac quite a bit. He actually works on the roof at Mercury almost every day. But he moved to Watoma. He had the boat, and I was starting to have my family started. So the first year I didn't fish it, I went out there to watch the tournament, and one of the guys that was a Lighthouse Anglers Fishing Club member said, "Hey, what are you doing?" And I said, "I'm just out here watching." And he goes, "Why don't you jump back here and help us out?" So I said, "Sure." So I started helping out the Lighthouse Anglers, and then I joined their club, and I kind of worked a little bit in each different job and aspect of the tournament. And a couple of the past tournament directors noticed me and said, "Hey, you got kind of a knack with people, and you got a understanding of what's going on. Maybe someday you could take this over." And I didn't really take them serious at that time, but one thing led to another, and here I am. I've been tournament director now for about 10 years.
So how much of an undertaking is it to be the tournament director? I imagine your work in the process maybe is never ending, but I'm sure it gets really, really busy, probably a month or maybe more even in advance, right?
Well, I work for Michelle Kilburn. She's the senior manager of freshwater promotions at Mercury. And her and I started having meetings about Christmas time.
Wow.
And sometimes we go a couple of weeks, sometimes we go 3 weeks or once a week throughout, those 5 or 6 months leading up to this, where we go over things. And we kind of decide, when the next meeting is based on how much we talked this meeting and what we came up with. And we're always looking to improve things. So that's why we talk so much. I listen to every fisherman, and I talk to different people that I see, like when I'm out sturgeon spear and whatever, and we're talking about the tournament, and they say, "Hey, I got this idea." So my head is working on this 12 months out of the year. I'm one that doesn't turn off well, so I'm always thinking and looking at doing anything we can to improve it and make it better.
So, what's a day like? I mean, you got the however many hours they fish. They come in for weigh-ins. How many fish can you bring into weigh-ins? And I mean, I've seen it briefly where they all come up on the stage. They announce everything, and I mean, you guys got a pretty slick system to keep it going and keep the fish healthy. Or do you throw them back, or do you guys keep them all, or how does that all work?
Well, the DNR permits for tournaments on Lake Winnebago require us to tell the fishermen that they can only weigh 5 fish by tournament rule. So they have to decide what they're keeping and what they're not. State laws are also followed for tournaments. So state law says each individual can have 3 fish and only 3 fish. So when one team member catches his 3rd fish and puts it in the live well, he's done fishing, has to take his lines out. The other guy can continue fishing to get his limit. So hopefully, as their day goes, each guy's catching, 1, and the other guy catches 1, and then they both have 2, and then one of them catches their 3rd, and he's done fishing. And this is a catch and release tournament. So we work very hard. The Lighthouse Anglers Fishing Club has been involved with this for all 45 years. And they work very hard at trying to keep every one of these fish alive, and we release as many as we can. And they do a very good job of it. They're actually, I've been called by different tournament people around the country and asked, "How do you guys do this, and how well does it work for you, and what have you learned? What have your mistakes been?" So we work with a lot of different people and work with all the Lake Winnebago fish biologists every year and get ideas from them and help from them, and always looking to get as many fish back into the lake as we can.
Can we dive into that a little bit? I mean, like, what are some of those keys that make it work out to where you can release so many fish?
Well, the biggest factor is how hot is the lake water. If the lake water is above 75 degrees, the fish stress out pretty easily. If the water is rough and those fish are in a live well a lot longer, they get banged around, they get stressed out. If the guys go out and catch 3 of their fish by 7 or 7:30 in the morning, and they don't catch their 6th fish till 2 o'clock, and they got to be in at 2:30, those first 3 fish are in that live well all day long. So it's really up to the fishermen, and a lot of them are really good at it, to keep them fish alive by keeping fresh water flowing on them fish all the time. Try to keep the water as cool as they can. What we do is we get very, I guess I'd call it special water, but it's untreated water that's in a well outside of Fond du Lac. The city of Fond du Lac is very good to us, and they have a 2,500 gallon tank that they fill up with fresh water, bring it to us on an island the day before, and it gets a chance to warm up a little bit, which it doesn't do a whole lot because that's a very large volume of water. But we try to keep the water about 5 degrees different, or within 5 degrees of what the lake temperature is. So some years when we have water that's in the upper 80s for temperature in the lake, we'll actually blend some of the lake water that we'll go out and retrieve with the boats, bring it in, and we'll blend that water with the well water that we get from the city to try to warm it up just a little bit. But we work very closely with the fish biologists in years past, and they're the ones that have given us these numbers of what to do with the water.
I mean, it seems like you guys got a pretty well oiled system there. I mean, boats probably are hopping out for minute, 2 minutes at tops during weigh-ins, and they're back in and on their way out, because I mean, you guys got tons of boats coming and going.
Yep. Well, each flight of 75 has to be in 30 minutes apart. So from 2 to 2:30, we try to weigh 75 boats. From 2:30 to 3, and then another flight at 3, and the last flight is at 3:30. We try to get it all done each flight in 30 minutes. So yeah, we're moving boats through the system. Those fish come out of the boat, they go in an inspection tank. We make sure there's no sandpike or saugers in the tank, that they're all walleyes. We make sure they're all 15 inches. We make sure that there's no alterations to any of the fish of any kind. And then they get put in a basket. They go in another tank while they wait to go on stage, which usually doesn't take more than a minute or 2. And they're on the stage getting weighed, and then they're put in a very specialized release boats that come from the Walleye Federation.
That was my next question. Are you guys like wait until the end of the day till all flights come in to go release them, or are you kind of doing every flight to take a boat out type of thing?
We have the Walleye Federation comes with 2 homemade pontoon boats that are really impressive, and they're worth coming out just to see these. The one has a 1,700 gallon tank. The other one has a 1,400 gallon tank of water on it. They have water pumps that circulate the water, and they have oxygen tanks that add oxygen to the water. Boats can hold, I want to say, like 600 walleyes at a time, although we don't push that number or try to get to that number. What we do is we send one boat out with a load of fish, and then we start loading up the second boat. When that first boat's coming back in through the channels, a second boat that's loading up, then he starts to go out. So they're constantly flip-flopping. We always have one boat getting loaded, one boat going out and emptying. And when they take these boats out to the lake, they have a big tank bottom that opens up and dumps all that water and all those fish out in like 30 seconds. So all the fish are flushed right back into the lake as quickly as possible. They're held as little amount of time as we can so that they're not stressed, and get them back out into the lake, into their natural water, natural habitat, and keep stress levels down.
Yeah, that sounds like a pretty sweet rig. I'll check that out this year. So if there is a few that don't make it through or aren't in good shape, what do you guys do with those?
Well, lighthouse anglers over the years have acquired a lot of equipment to clean them, and the fish go to St. Paul's Cathedral, and then the lighthouse anglers also take special needs people from Fond du Lac out on different fishing trips or excursions to ponds and some times on the lake, and then we'll have a fish fry with those people at the end of that day also. But 90% of the fish all go to St. Paul's Cathedral to the Broken Bread program.
Wow, that's pretty nice of you guys. That sounds like a good cause.
Yeah, it is. I've been there when they've given them out, and I didn't realize how many needy people we had in Fond du Lac, but there's an awful lot of them. And I've seen moms and dads and even kids crying that they're getting some fish or that they're getting meat, because they can go weeks sometimes and they don't get any meat to eat. Their only source of protein is beans and peanut butter. So this is a great thing, and a lot of them look forward to Walleye Weekend so that they can get some fish to eat.
Yeah, I bet. I mean, that's awesome.
Yeah, that is a great thing. You obviously want to try and protect as many fish as you can and keep them alive, but there's just no way you can have a 100% success rate on that. So the next best thing, obviously, then is to clean them up and give them to people who are going to put them to good use.
Yep.
How many people attend the weigh-in, like as spectators?
There's been some years where, if you're familiar with Oven Island at the park, all of the blacktop and to the area east and west of the blacktop is full. And we don't take a picture and count would be the only way to do it, but we're guessing there's 2,500 to 3,000 people there on a good year.
Yeah,
so it's a lot of people.
It's an event. There's a lot of people who like to see the weigh-in, and obviously support people who they know and see what kind of bags people are going to be bringing in.
Right.
So that kind of goes.
If you think of it, there's like this year, there's 574 people fishing the tournament. Each one has a girlfriend, a wife, 2 or 3 kids, and they all come out to see grandpa or their dad or their brother or their cousin or whoever. They all come with a little bit of a entourage of their own people. So, if you multiply out, it's almost 600 fishermen times 2 people coming and visiting each one. It's a big number of people.
Yeah, for sure. And I know it's surrounded by a whole, weekend of events and things. So it lines up with the tournament itself lines up with Walleye Weekend, correct?
Yep. The tournament started out just the tournament. Somebody's decided in a year or two into it that they were going to have brats and burgers out there, and of course beer comes with that, and soda. And then all of a sudden Fond du Lac festivals came along and started building everything around it. Now we have strongman competitions, volleyball, softball games, 3-on-3 basketball. Then the bands came, and now we have 3 stages with different bands on each stage all day long. I think they start at like 11 o'clock in the morning. Saturday night they have a big headliner that shows up, and that one goes to like 11 at night. So it's just built all around the fishing tournament, which was the first thing there.
Yeah, so do you have any estimates on how many people on average attend the whole like Walleye Weekend every year?
I used to hear some numbers. They talked, a few years they figured 80,000 people attended Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I heard one year they were estimating 100,000 people showed up. So, but I don't know. They don't count. There's no admission. It's free to get in. The whole park is open. It's all free to walk around, and you can watch all the events going on for free. So it's really hard to say, I guess. But that's the estimates that I've heard.
Yeah, that's kind of an unreal turnout there. And it probably goes without saying that this weekend would have quite a big impact on some of the local businesses.
Yeah, no doubt. A lot of the fishermen, they're locals, I guess, to call them, but they're not, going to drive back to Green Bay on Saturday night after fishing. They're going to stay in the motels. Big boats, big motors burn a lot of gas, and everybody always needs to eat. So the restaurants are all getting a lot of business out of it too.
Yeah, and so as far as like for businesses to sponsor things, Mercury is the only sponsor of the fishing tournament, but there's plenty of businesses that can sponsor things at Walleye Weekend, right?
Yes, there's everything. Any of the other events can be sponsored by different businesses. I know Holiday Automotive is big into it, and Mercury Marine obviously donates to other parts of the festivities too, besides just the fishing tournament. Not sure who the other ones are at the moment here. I can't remember.
Well, and I know like some of the food tents too, like the North Fond du Lac School District will usually have a food tent. You can go and, they'll have everything there. You can hang out, that sort of thing. So I know it's a big fundraiser for a lot of businesses and organizations and school districts and all that stuff in the area.
Yep, the Kiwanis and Lions Club, they're all there. The fire departments are all there too from around the area. They all have their own concession stands set up, and it's a good time. Sometimes I wish I wasn't doing this so I could take in the rest of the stuff, but I'm usually busy figuring something out during the day. On Saturday and Sunday, I'm kind of stuck into my tent in the back behind the stage.
Yeah, I know it's definitely a good time. We usually go most years, and like we said, we've never fished in it before, but just attending the weekend and seeing all that stuff going on and enjoying the food and watching the band, all that stuff. So, I mean, is there anything you can pinpoint that you would say that makes this tournament special beyond maybe some of the other ones that are going on? Is it the combination of the fishing tournament with all the other stuff?
It definitely is. The combo of everything, the festivities, the excitement around it, the people watching the weigh-in. The biggest thing that I know for the fishermen, it's not the prize. They get a nice wood plaque for winning this, besides the boat motor trailer and the cash prize. They get this wood plaque that says you're number one in the Merc National. A lot of tournament fishermen over the years that have won this have used this as a catapult to go pro. Keith Cabayas, Gary Parsons, to name two of them that were locals that did well, and then catapulted into being pro fishermen and doing it for a lifetime, for their living. But I know so many guys that have been fishing this almost for 45 years. They tell me, I don't care what the prize is. I want that wood. I want that plaque that said, 1 year I was better than everybody else at the Merc National. That's the big kick for a lot of these guys, is just getting that plaque. So that's why they do it.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so, I mean, being involved with this as long as you have been, I mean, do you have any, like, highlights that you remember that are, like, up at the top of your list from tournaments or huge weigh-ins or really good fishing years, really bad years?
Yeah, back in the day, Gary Gray and Bill Klotzbucher were a pair from Oshkosh that they were the team to beat. They won it a couple of times, maybe 3 times. I'm not sure. I don't have any of the records of the numbers of that, but they were river rats in Oshkosh. They jigged in the river, and they won it quite often. That sticks out in my mind. For me personally, I had 1 year where on Saturday we had one fish that weighed 1.28 pounds. And on Sunday we went for broke and we landed on a nice school. And in 45 minutes we had our fish, and we came in with the third heaviest basket that year, and it was like an 18.7 pound basket. And we ended up winning the comeback award from lowest place to the highest advancing team, and we actually cashed a check that year. I think we ended up in something like 40th place. So for me, that's my big highlight, is finish 15th. Another year we finished 16th, and another year we finished 17th, and we did well. So those stick out in my mind. I really like seeing the family members that fish together. There's a lot of brothers and brothers. There's fathers and daughters and fathers and sons and cousins that fish together. And over all these years that I've done it, you see the same faces every year, and you end up talking to them and you find out who they are and find out that they're all relatives and they're fishing together. You see those people come through together every year, and even if they're cashing a check or not, they don't care. They're just fishing together for 2 days in the biggest tournament in the area, the one that everybody wants to do well in. You see their smiling faces and they're happy. That's what keeps me going. That's what charges my battery during the rest of the year, is to keep going and try to make this a good tournament. So when you see all these people come in with the smiles on their faces, even when they had a rough day, they're still happy and they still look at you and say, this is really cool. This is the best tournament I ever fished. So
I mean, I can't imagine what that's like. I mean, being the tournament director, you probably get tons of like compliments and everything like that. Do you have any favorite parts from being the tournament director on that side of things when you weren't fishing and being involved more so and just setting everything up?
Like you said, getting the compliments from the fishermen and the thank yous, that's a lot, because there are bad times, there are bad things that happen, and there are accidents that happen, and broken boats and motor failures and broken hearts from people, that have that happen to them. So, but just seeing the smiles on the faces and getting the compliments from the guys, say, hey, you do this right, and I appreciate it. So that's worth a lot to me.
Right. This probably varies every year, obviously, but is there like an average pounds that win it every year? I mean, if the fish are biting like a normal bite type of thing, or does it vary?
It really varies a lot. But if you watch how the lake population of walleyes is doing, according to the fish biologists, they go out with a trawler several times a day during the course of the year, and they net fish and they weigh them, they check them, and release what they can. If you follow the year classes of fish, like right now, our year class, we don't have many fish over 22 inches in the system. We had a couple of years of bad hatches. Now we've got 4 or 5 years in a row of really good hatches, but those fish aren't matured yet. They're not big, they're not heavy, they're up to 22 inches, maybe some 3-pounders out there. So the weights really fluctuate a lot depending on how the system is doing. I should mention too, the feed, it all depends on what those fish have to feed on. Back in the gizzard shad years, when we had a lot of gizzard shad, the fish were plumper, fatter, and happier, So I remember years when the weights were in the mid 30s, 34, 36 pounds that it took to win over the 2 days. This year, going off of some of the other tournaments I've seen in the last week here, I'm going to predict this year we're going to be maybe 28 to 30, maybe a 31-pound basket to win it. So
still a pretty good number.
Yeah, it is. Yep.
Yeah, that's
it's weighing 10 fish over 2 days, so it's a 3-pound average.
Yeah, you got to have a good weekend of fishing to come up with a 30-something pound bag.
Yeah, you do. Yep.
So as far as Walleye Weekend goes, I know there's a lot of good stuff going on. There's all kinds of food to be had. There's all kinds of activities, stuff for the kids, stuff for everybody, all kinds of live music. You said you don't get to necessarily hang out in too much of that stuff. Do you at least get to enjoy the band every now and then?
Only what I can hear from the stage. I usually don't take off from the stage area or the weigh-ins area, because you never know when a team's coming in. Sometimes by 10 o'clock there's a team or two coming in that they have what they kept in their limit, and they're coming in, and I just need to be there. So if I can hear it, if the wind is blowing right and it's blowing across the park, I'll hear band, but I don't go over and hang out by any of the bandstands ever.
No, I suppose you've got a pretty big job there to hold down the fort. You can't necessarily go off and do your own thing. You mentioned a little bit ago sturgeon spearing. It's something we always got to talk about with any of the local people we have on the podcast because it's such a
Yep.
big thing for everybody. What has your experience been like with sturgeon spearing on Lake Winnebago? How did you get started and all of that?
I can't remember how young I was the first time I went out with my dad, but I was probably 5 or 6 years old. My dad went a lot, and I went along with him on the weekends. Obviously, I was in the school during the week, but I started out at a very young age, and I think I've done pretty good spearing. I've speared 14 fish over my life. I live on the lake near Subway Road, so I'm always watching water and ice conditions leading up to spearing, and I'm kind of scouting for worms like a lot of guys do now, and I'm looking for water clarity in the weeks prior. So sturgeon spearing is a big part of my life.
What's been the most memorable fish that you've gotten out there?
Boy, I got to pick one out of 14.
Well, we can go one after the other if you want to cover all 14.
Let's talk about my quickest fish. My daughter went along with me. I think it was one of her first years, maybe her second year with me. And we were sitting in the shanty right off Lakeside Park, actually, within a half mile of the park. And 11 minutes into the season, here comes a big fish, and dropped the spear on it and pulled it out, and it was a spawned out female. She was 79 pounds. So that's my biggest and the quickest. But I've had other ones that are pretty cool too, and up off of Oshkosh in 20 or 21 feet of water. I had a fish come through about 12 or 14 feet down, and when you throw a spear at one like that, it seems like that spear is going in slow motion towards that fish, and you're watching the rope coil out behind the spear. It's like, oh no, did I get it or not? And then you see the spear hit it, you know you got it. That one's been pretty cool too. And I've had a few fish that in the Clearwater years, they came into the hole and dropped and laid right on the bottom, right in the middle of my hole, and just sat there and waited for me to spear them. So those are pretty cool moments too.
Have you, are you the type of guy to pass up some fish, or are you kind of, well, now that you speared a good amount of them, do you pass them up, or are you kind of just spearing first legal ones?
I think it would really depend on the year. If it's a cloudy year, I don't think I'd pass up much of anything. You know, I'm not going to spear a 20 pounder or anything like that unless I mess up and didn't realize it was that small. But it's exciting getting any size fish. You know, it's only place in the country. Well, there's one lake in Michigan, I guess, that you can still spear, but they only have a 6-fish limit. Their season only lasts an hour, so it's the only place in the country you can do this and witness it. So it's a thrill, you know. Put it in perspective. My dad died in 1989. He speared up till the year he died. He went 30 years in a row, never saw a fish, never got one. But back in the 70s and early 80s, the water was very cloudy, very dirty. And a lot of times you're sitting there looking in water you can only see 3 or 4 feet. After he retired, back in those days, you could spear from sunup to sundown, 16-day long season. He went 3 years in a row, sunup to sundown, all 16 days, and still didn't see one or get one. So
Some perseverance right there.
Perseverance and desire to get one. He kept saying, I just got to get one. I got to get one. And it just never happened for him. So.
Well, I mean, with anything, whether it's the spearing or fishing or hunting, you know, that's kind of the mantra of all of us when we're out there is, you know, you just gotta have the right one swim by or walk by or whatever. You just gotta. That's why we keep doing it, because you just never know when that next one is going to come by.
Yep, that's right. It's all about being at the right place at the right time.
Exactly. So besides any of the fishing stuff, do you have any of the other outdoorsy hobbies? Are you a bow hunter or a deer hunter?
Yeah, I bow hunt, I gun hunt deer. Recently got a Springer Spaniel, my third dog, but the first one that I tried hunting with. And I've absolutely fallen in love with hunting over this dog for pheasants. She took to it very quickly, very easily. I never sent her out for any pro training or anything like that. Never took her to a farm where somebody, told me how to train it. My son Logan has a dog that's a year older. He started before I did, and his dog took off with it. My dog took off with it. So pheasant hunting has become a little bit more of a more enjoyed sport by me than bow hunting right now. And bow hunting used to be pretty high on my list.
Oh, that's awesome. We've got a Springer Spaniel too, and I love him to death, but he can't smell a pheasant to save his life. I don't know what's going on with him. He can smell food from 10 miles away, but pheasants, he'll walk right up on them, and he can't find them. But no, it's great. We just love going out there with them, and that's one of those two that can always be a good time. Unfortunately, when it does overlap with bow hunting, we're kind of pretty dedicated to that. We don't really get out there as much as we probably would like to, but that's oftentimes an overlooked animal to hunt that can be pretty fun, and I don't think it gets talked about often enough. Anything else? Turkey hunting?
I have done some turkey hunting. Have not had any success at it, and kind of burnt out on it. And where Walleye Weekend is coming up in June, turkey season kind of is the time of season when I'm ramping up for Walleye Weekend. I'm thinking about that stuff and getting my notes together and whatnot. So turkey hunting is kind of fallen off the list a little bit.
Right, I gotcha. So you mentioned your kids a little bit. Have they kind of taken to the outdoors scene and the hunting and fishing and stuff?
Oh yeah, very much. My son has always gone with me, and when he was too young to go with me, he would be playing out in the yard that he was bow hunting or gun hunting. He'd get all dressed up and get his toys out and set stuff up in the yard. And my daughter loves fishing too. She's right next to me sturgeon spearing every year since that first year that I took her, probably 10 years ago or a little more already. So she goes along all the time. And we just got back from a trip to Lake Erie. And my son and Nicole is my daughter, and the three of us take my boat and we go out there and spend 7 days out there fishing the big walleyes that they have out there.
Yeah, that's awesome. Jake, where are Colby and Eli right now? No, they're not on Erie.
No, they're way up in Canada. I don't know where
they're way
like
up.
14 hours or something like that.
Yeah, I think they had taken an Erie trip maybe a little while ago, or one of them did. I don't know, but I know that's a big one that you should probably try and do at least once in your life. It sounds like a good time. Do you have any experience fishing like in the Green Bay area for walleyes?
That I have not yet, but that's on the bucket list for this year. So got a couple offers from some guys that fish Walleye Weekend to go up there with them or follow along, and that's definitely a place I want to go to. I have not been there. I actually, back when I was a teenager, I guess I fished in De Pere in the early season in a 14-foot boat that I had back then, so I fished there, but I have not fished in the bay for walleyes. So they go up there in the winter times every now and again and fish with Dale Strohshine for white bass, which I think you guys have done with the school in the past, right?
I know. I think Colby's been involved with a lot of that stuff. I don't think Jake or I ever got to do any of that, but
okay.
I know that that's been. We never were really on the fishing team. That's something I regret there. I know my brother got into the fishing team and he got to do that a little bit. But yeah, I kind of was always busy with other sports and never got into that, and I should have. But I guess I'm kind of making up for it now a little bit, trying to get out there more.
There you go.
Yeah, I agree. I would have done the fishing team, and even I wish I would have shot trap too, because it's a pretty fun sport. I do it now, and I really wish I would have done it in high school, but it's hard to make that all work with other sports. But
Yeah, they've got a lot of good things out there now for kids in school, especially in that school district. All the opportunities that they have for, all that outdoor stuff. Like we said, the fishing team, the trap shooting team. It's pretty cool to see that. So, as we kind of wind things down here, we get back a little bit to the big tournament, Walleye Weekend. As a general, if it's just people listening who, attend the tournament, go every year, maybe they've never been there before, is there anything that you wish more people knew about the tournament?
Not really, I guess. It's just a fun event. It's made to be fun, or tried to be made fun for everybody around the community and for families. And, the fishermen go out. I can't say men or women, because there's a lot of women getting into fishing now, and we have a lot of competitive women fishing with family members and husbands and whatnot. And then the rest of the family is out at the park taking in the rest of the festivities all day long, playing or watching the games of volleyball and soccer and the 3-on-3 that they used to have. I don't know if they have that anymore or not, but there's rock climbing walls, there's strongman competition. Like I said before, there's 3 bands going all the time during the day. There's face painting, there's animal shows. There's just so much variety of stuff that you could easily spend a day out there and wait for your friend or relative to come in and get weighed in and watch them cross the stage. It's a big thrill for a lot of them too. There's always cameras going and pictures being taken of that. So it's just a cool event to go to. Good food, sweet corn, brats, burgers, chicken, barbecue stuff. Lots of drinks going around of all varieties. So just a good time for everybody.
Absolutely. I couldn't have said it better myself. Jake, you were in the 3-on-3 tournaments quite a bit, right?
I think I did a little bit, but when I got older, I was into volleyball, which was really fun. I mean, we talk about that all the time, that we wish we could still play in that, because once you're out of high school, you can't. But that was a lot of fun.
So that was what, high school, like softball tournament?
Yeah, the volleyball, so just softball, co-ed.
Gotcha. Yeah, I remember doing the 3-on-3 a little bit. I wonder if they've still got that going anymore. But yeah, there's an abundance of stuff. I mean, like you said, you can easily spend a day out there, spend a weekend out there. There's always going to be something going on. So I think I know what your answer is probably going to be to the next question. We kind of said it, but what is the best way for somebody to support the tournament, to support Walleye Weekend? If somebody wants to be a good supporter of it, what's the best thing they could do?
Grab a friend or a relative or a neighbor that maybe not be going out there ever, and ask them to go along with you, and just go out and wander around and take it all in.
Absolutely, for sure. Well, is there anything else to get at here before we wrap things up? Anything else you want to cover with the tournament or the weekend in general?
I don't think so. I think we covered it all. I forgot to mention the fish fries that they have out there are walleye, and the Kiwanis has a very good walleye sandwich that they sell every year. I forgot to mention them. That is worth going out just for that. It's one of the things I always make sure that I try to get and eat is one of the walleye sandwiches during the day. So
I know that's a big hit.
Too. Yep, there's always a long line for that one.
Everybody wants to have that at least once in the weekend.
That and the cheese curds from the fire department are phenomenal. I don't know where they get their cheese curds from, but they're unlike anything at any of the restaurants in town.
Yeah.
Agree with that one.
Yep, you can't beat it. All right, Ken. Well, we really appreciate you being on here with us this evening. We're really looking forward to the tournament and keeping up with everything and kind of seeing the results of that. I hope it's going to be a good year for everybody. It sounds like it is. The numbers are coming back up. It should be some good weather, hopefully, maybe a little bit on the warmer end of things, but I guess you'll take that over a rainy weekend, I'm sure.
Yep, anything but thunderstorms. Don't want thunderstorms. Them are not good for boats.
No, for sure. You can throw on some sunscreen and get a little air conditioning every now and then and brave that. That's a little bit better than lightning.
Yep, no doubt.
Yeah, well, hopefully it's going to be a good year, and should be quite a few people out there. It sounds like it's going to be a good time. So for anybody listening, you heard it from Ken. The best thing you can do is just to grab some buddies, grab your family, and head out there. Go enjoy the food, enjoy the band, eat some fish, some cheese curds, have some drinks, watch all the boats come in, and just hang out. It should be a really good time, and good luck with everything that you've got, on your end with being the director. Hopefully everything runs smoothly for you, and we're just going to be looking forward to it.
All right, thanks, guys. Appreciate you having me on. Good show.
Yeah, and on us.
Yeah, thanks a lot. And thank you to everybody who stuck with us here. Thank you for listening. We've got a lot of content that's going to be coming out. I know we've mentioned a few times now that Colby and Eli are in Canada right now. Who knows where they're even at. They've got no cell service. We haven't heard from them, but they're going to be having a good time up there, catching a lot of fish. So hopefully there's going to be some content to come there. We can get some more fishing stuff out for you guys. So we're going to have a good summer here, and deer season's going to be around the corner before you know it. So stick with us. Thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you guys next time.